For those of you that have been following the channel for a couple of years now, you'll know that I'm a big fan of handhelds, and ever since Delta has come to iPhone and iPads, there has been a massive boom in emulating in general. And one product that wants to mix both a handheld and mobile emulation is the GAMEBABY by Bitmo Lab. This is quite simply a smartphone case for your iPhone that you can flip round and turn your iPhone into pretty much a Game Boy, which I think is really awesome. This is a prototype. Bitmo Labs has sponsored this video and wanted to showcase this to retro Dodo readers as early as they could, which is pretty awesome. So I'm very thankful for them for thinking of us. But I want to share with you my opinions, a first look around this prototype and how it feels and how it performs. So let's jump in. These type of accessories aren't necessarily new. Android has likely had them for some time. Hyperkin created an accessory for iPhones that transforms your iPhone into a Game Boy, admittedly not exactly portably, but now Bitmo Labs has basically created something that's mass-produced, affordable, coming in at 40 bucks for when it launches, maybe in a few months. There hasn't been an official date yet, but I can imagine in a few months this will be official. And it's basically an accessory for iPhones, but more specifically the Delta emulator, because you actually need the Delta app and an official skin to make this work fluidly. It works officially with Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and NES games. Obviously, if you're using the N64 emulation on Delta, so you obviously need a lot more buttons. So this is specifically designed for Game Boy and NES consoles. The case itself is fairly thin, coming in at just 3mm in thickness. It's a case that will defend your phone from minor bumps, drops, and scratches, but I certainly don't trust it surviving heavy falls downstairs or drops from anything higher than my waist. Protection is second to play, and that's obvious from the get-go. If you're buying this for protection, you're an idiot. This is all about play and retro gaming with a minimal protection from, scuffs in your pocket or if you're putting this in your bag. But if you're dropping it and kicking it and booting it like a kid, it will not defend your phone well. Let's just put it that way, because it is 3mm thin. There's no rubber on the corners. There's no, Gorilla Glass screen protector that comes with it. This is just simply a gaming case that can flip and be used as a controller. Installing the controller case is simple. The top part goes in first by resting one side into place, using the camera cutout as your first guide. Then pushing down towards the volume buttons will welcome you with a snap that secures the top section into place. The top section features a large camera cutout with a bezel for protection. The buttons are made of metal in a goldish coating that gives it a very premium look. Many variations of yellow and cream are the core of its colorway, which gives it a fashionable look. You can tell from the get-go that they have a great team of designers as soon as you start installing it, which I respect. There's nothing worse than paying a premium price for a case that looks like it has been designed by someone without any experience designing products or even any experience within the retro gaming handheld market. But it's very evident they have done their research here, and their designers obviously have a passion for retro gaming because it looks damn sleek. The top part features minor text details such as the Bitmo Lab logo and motto alongside the GAMEBABY logo on the back. Once your top section is secured, you can now slide the controller onto the bottom half of the phone and it will be greeted with a click once connected with the top. The dark yellow top partners with the off-white bottom incredibly well, matched with cream, yellow and orange buttons, which apparently the Clockwork Pi handheld influenced. So again, there's proof in the pudding that these guys and the designers and the people behind this product actually used retro handhelds in the past within this market. And yeah, it does kind of look like the old school yellow Clockwork Pi handheld that I've reviewed in the past. The connection between both case parts are mediocre to say the least. Switching the controller will require you to massage it apart, which will guarantee you pressing either the volume keys or sleep keys to separate them. I now have a very large selection of screenshots on my phone because of this. I tend to have a larger grip when separating it, so I just do this, right? As anyone would, but actually you tend to take screenshots. What I do recommend after weeks of use is simply grabbing the top away from the buttons and taking it apart like so. This took me a few days to realize. Naturally, you just take it apart. It does require a little more, massaging and bending to get it apart, but it will do the job. The issue I have is that these tiny little clasps, you can't really see them. They're just really, really small. And I was hoping that Bitmo Labs would innovate a little differently here. Like, I don't know, I would like to see some kind of like clasp at the top here, or something innovative where it just doesn't feel like I have to almost break the case to pull it apart, which does get a little annoying if you're doing it multiple times a day, which you end up doing, because when you want to play it, you switch it round, bang, and you're done. You take it off, you switch it round, and I've already taken a screenshot there and asked Siri something. So you can see that it is cumbersome, and I wish there was just something different to like release the bottom part. I don't know, maybe it's a clip or a clasp that kind of, I don't know. I just think on a premium case, and with Bitmo Lab's previous history in creating cases, I just think they could have done a bit more work there. It's probably the worst part of the case, and it will shine light and grab your attention every time you switch it around, because everything else about the case is perfectly designed, it's incredibly comfortable, and it's very good build quality. So it just kind of highlights that very small frustration of flipping it round. I'm not saying it's bad. I just think compared to everything else on the case, it's evident that maybe it should have required a little bit more research. Once you're in gaming mode though, that's where the magic happens. The GameBaby itself has its very own Delta skin that pairs with the controller, so all of the physical buttons match up with the buttons on the emulator. And I must say, it's a very sleek skin. We actually have our own skin in the links below if you want to download it, but Delta has obviously gotten a very professional designer who has used Delta in the past to create a very sleek skin. And I'd actually use this skin if I didn't have my own. It's that good. And in portrait and landscape mode, it just looks beautiful. In the hand, it feels like any other thin case, with a matte finish that feels sleek and durable enough to withstand long use. The buttons are made with a rubber silicone and feature small rubber contacts on the back that touch the display behind. When pressed, the emulator will use the phone's rumble to vibrate slightly, allowing it to feel like the case is responding to button presses. Now, this is Delta doing that, but it somewhat kind of connects with the case quite nicely, and it feels as if it's all built into one, which gives it a really nice feedback when pressing buttons. Because if it didn't have the vibrate, the only way you'd know is if something happened on the screen. But the vibration just adds that slight little bit of feedback, which makes it all feel like a real handheld. The buttons are made with a standard and conductive silicone in combination with metal plates. Originally, Bitmo Lab were going to use both silicone materials exclusively, but the baking process of the materials to get rid of the silicone black color, which is mandatory, altered the button quality and therefore gaming quality. So changes were made to add the metal plates to create a better experience for the prototype. This is one of the main reasons why the GameBaby is currently delayed. That said, the final units will not have the metal plate. This is simply designed to give media and influencers a first look at the product and to also allow time for the GameBaby team to design the silicone pads perfectly without the metal. So you'll actually not have these metal plates visible to you at all once the product is officially launched. And a part of me, I don't know, like I don't actually mind the metal plates. I understand why they want to get rid of them, because there is a little bit of flaking on the buttons. So hopefully my camera can show you the button that is flaking. This is basically the metal plate rubbing on the rubber so often that it creates little flakes above the metal. You know, I do have to mention that just in case Bitmo Lab do stick with the metal plates, which they have said to me exclusively that they won't. So, you know, these little flakes on the silicone will disappear. So actually, although I do like the way the metal looks, getting rid of them will make it a much higher quality gaming experience for the user. In regards to button location, I think they've absolutely nailed it. They have lifted the shoulder buttons above the action buttons, which moves them out of the way in an organic way, but easily reachable if you're deciding to emulate your favorite Game Boy Advance games. The D-pad itself is perfectly sized, not too small and not too big. Because it's made of silicone, it's highly flexible too. I'm not saying that fighting game fans will love playing on this, but for a case D-pad that simply touches the screen in an organic, fluid way, I can actually basically slide my thumb around the D-pad incredibly well without friction from the silicone, and If anything, I'm actually quite impressed by the D-pad. You know, a silicon D-pad isn't really loved by many, but on here it works well, it's flexible, it feels good, and it presses the screen nicely and reliably. The action buttons are again nicely sized, which provides force across the whole button, meaning the contact has no issues hitting the screen due to its size. Next to that is an orange button that can be used for multiple things in multiple emulators, but it's typically used as a fast forward or rapid button, which for me works perfectly well when I'm playing Pokemon and I don't want to read all the text, I want to speed run through the Safari Zone, for example. It's right there ready to go in a bright orange, which kind of emphasizes that why not use it? Why not use the fast forward button if you're getting a little bored? I know it's forbidden in some games, but my short attention span needs that fast forward button. Finally, at the bottom, you will find a Start, Select, and Menu button. The Menu button has a small cutout for the green menu light to shine through from the Delta skin. This gives a unique LED light look as if it came straight from a retro handheld, you know, the little green light which looks cool. The buttons are professionally attached to the case too and cannot be removed easily or pulled through the case and separated without having the intention of breaking it. The way this is done is quite simple. They have added a plastic cutout to the back of the case which glues and holds the buttons in place as if they were squished between two very tight walls of plastic, making it incredibly hard to break. I'm very impressed with how well this case has been made. They haven't gone overboard, they've kept in minimal, light, protective and durable materials without the bulk. The gaming experience works incredibly well, and after using it for 2 weeks every single day, I have yet to see any major signs of wear, even on the rubber silicone, which gets caught on my pocket now and then. And they've stayed attached, they've stayed very well made, and that's a nod to the materials and the research that's gone into this product. The only notable area of wear was the fact that dust and dirt was getting caught behind the phone cutout, which can only be seen when the case is removed. But this happens with pretty much every case on the planet. It's just dust and lint and dirt in your pocket that's managing to crawl into the back of your case. There is one annoyance I have, and it's pretty much impossible to get round. When you use the Delta emulator and you want to go into the main menu will actually slide up from the bottom. So if you want to get, back into your emulator settings or change game or add cheat codes, this is pretty much impossible to do when the case is on your phone. So what I've had to do when changing between games, I've actually had to slide off the case or the bottom half, for example, to get to the menu to change game and to change settings, which is cumbersome. I know many of you will require to do that multiple times a day. So what happens is throughout your day, you're changing your case and flipping it around 10, 15, 20 times a day, which is why the whole attachment process does get a little bit cumbersome because you're doing it so often. So I don't know how Bitmo Labs gets around that, because that's just how the emulator uses its menus. It just slides up from the top, and unfortunately that's where your case and controller is. So there's no way of getting around that without really making the device and the case itself look ugly. So that's just something to be aware with. When you do purchase this, you will be sliding off the bottom a lot. Overall, it's very obvious that Bitmo Lab understand how to make a high quality case and have evidently done their research to build an incredible controller that pairs well with Delta, all while being portable and durable enough to survive day-to-day use. It's one of the best accessories for emulator enthusiasts who own an iPhone 16 or 15 Pro Max, and I am incredibly excited to follow Bitmo Lab closely over the next couple of years. For a prototype, this is crafted at a very high standard, and although the connecting of the two parts can be cumbersome at times, it's easy to get the hang of after a couple of days. The design team deserve a pat on the back on this one because they've somehow made a complicated phone case look modern, natural, and retro, all while keeping it affordable and enjoyable to play on without snagging issues in your pocket due to the silicone. There are areas that need minor refinements, but I believe the team will iron those out before releasing the final product. If you are wanting a unique way to play your Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, and even NES games on the Delta emulator, this is a really cool and affordable way to do that with a little bonus of protecting your iPhone while you do so. At the moment, unfortunately, it's only for iPhone 15 Pro Max and iPhone 16 Pro Max, but I can imagine if this pops off in terms of popularity and it sells good numbers, they'll likely open the doors to other phones as well, and maybe even jump over to Android as well, which I am hoping, because iPhone 15 and 16 Pro Max are very expensive phones. Not everyone has them, not everyone can afford them. So, you know, it's a very small niche at the moment, but from what I've seen and what I've experienced, I'm very impressed with Bitmo Labs, and they are now on my radar for creating awesome phone accessories for retro gamers. So there you have it. It's still in the pre-order phase if you want to snag one at an early bird price. Thank you for Bitmo Labs for sponsoring this video. They have no way altered or wanted to edit anything I say. It's all honest opinions here. But you know what? A prototype like this, I'm very impressed, and I'm excited to see gamers with this in the coming months. So thanks again for watching, guys. If you want to see more reviews and videos like this, hit subscribe and head over to our website for more awesome written content. If not, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.